together. It wasn't easy to ignore what I feel about you when you're my own best friend. Would you tell me, am I getting too close? 'Cause I can't guess what you were saying. Although I'm scared to lose a friendship, but this time, let me try to change your mind. Maybe it's you. Yeah, I should have told you something I say. Can sound crazy, but got to love the way you smile at me. I wanna call you mine now. Nobody feels like this, it's always been you. Knowing how much you care about me keeps me living questions if you feel the same. It wasn't easy to act like I don't care when you told me a girl asked you out. So just tell me, should I not cross the line? 'Cause I can't guess what you were saying. Although I'm scared to lose a friendship, but this time, let me try to change your mind. Maybe it's you. Yeah, I should have told you something I say. Can sound crazy, but got to love the way you smile at me. I wanna call you mine now. Nobody feels like this, it's always been you. Nobody feels like this, it's always been you.
You are now listening to Robot. Player 1 has entered the game. I'm Flagboard, your personal assistant. Please press start to begin.
Mod your friends to like dubstep.
All right, folks, that is it. We are back at it with our weekly Down and Distance show. Hopefully you are still awake, as it is somewhat late here on a Sunday night. But go ahead and tune in, get your weekly updates, and catch in with your hosts here, as usual, BigHurt, Cincyiceburg, and Maniac. Welcome, guys.
Hey, welcome. This is season 105. It's good to be back. This is our second show of this season, and I'm looking forward to what we have to talk about tonight.
Maniac, how's it going?
Yeah, a lot of exciting stuff going on. Going good, man. Going good. A lot of exciting stuff going on. I know there's your Bears are 4-0. That's impressive, and of course I'm the shame of the league so far right now this week because I am the last game of the week. So hopefully I get that game in tonight, and get a advance.
Well, I wouldn't be too shamed on that. I think you, like I said, we've talked in the past. I think you definitely have some improving to do, but taking over that team, it's not something that you can just flip as rough as that roster was with this league having a couple seasons under their belt. But yeah, I mean, since you said it's season 105, we are here in the thick of things, almost through week 4. We have 2 games left. One of them is a CPU sim, which will be the Eagles and the Chiefs. And then your final game should be taking place here sometime shortly tonight, and that'll be the Rams versus Maniacs Vikings. And then we'll be on to week 5. Let's go ahead and jump right into things. Let's dive right into it with just a simple recap over the first 4 weeks. As we've, this is kind of the first show with a lot of things. We've had some changes in the ownerships of some teams, which we covered and we talked about on our last show. And so I just want to kind of dive in and take a look and see how those things are panning out. And then we're going to talk about that a little bit and maybe some surprising games through the first 4 weeks. And then, as usual, we'll also dive into what's coming up in the coming week in week 5 of the OMFL. So I'm going to pull up our standings here and just go division by division and just kind of quickly recap this. We've got the Bengals at 4-0. Little Koch, who won the AFC North last year, right back at it. We got the Steelers and Penguins at 2-2. Denver at 2-2 with the Browns, and then Mikey at 1-3. AFC South, Duvall is 3-1 with the Jags. Cincy's 4-0 with the Colts. Titans are 2-2, and a lot of surprise here. Roger at 0-4 with the Texans. AFC East, the AFC representative in the OMFL Bowl, Massimo at 3-1. The Jets and Kobe at 2-2, which could be a big surprise. Bills at 3-1. No surprise there from the last couple seasons. Lost Sniper at 1-3. And to round out the AFC, we have Pepper with the Chargers at 3-1, the Broncos at 1-3, the Chiefs at 0-3, and the Raiders at 0-4. And then diving into the NFC, we got the Bears and the NFC North at 4-0, the Lions at 2-2, Packers at 0-4, and the Vikings at 0-3. NFC South, Kevin and the Bucks at 4-0, the Falcons at 3-1, Panthers at 1-3, Saints at 2-2, and Colin 2-2 with the Giants, Twinkie at 1-2 with the Eagles. And then to round out the NFC West, we have the Seahawks at 2-2, D-Money with 2-2 with the Niners, the Rams at 1-2, and the Cardinals at 0-4. Are there any surprises, either teams that have not won as much as you thought they were, or are there any surprises of teams that are 0-4? Just kind of give me your overall thoughts on the first 4 weeks here, guys.
Go ahead, Maniac. You can start us off here, buddy.
Yeah, well, one of the big surprises is I think over in the NFC South, 2 of the worst teams from last season have both turned things around. You had the Buccaneers at 4-0. I felt like Kevin would improve, but I didn't know he was going to improve that drastically because, I mean, his offense, it's almost kind of like he's kind of having a Nate-ish kind of season, like season 104. His defense is really stout, one of the best in the OMFL right now, allowing 44 points. And then you have the Falcons. I know Nate always talked about that team having, a lot of talent there, being stacked, and them sitting at 3-1, vibing for that number 1 spot there in that division, I think is a big improvement. And then I think the other surprise, or maybe I shouldn't say just complete surprise, but the fact that Little Koch and the Bengals, he's solidified that team again with some stellar draft picks, especially on his defensive line, and he's putting up points, man. 174 points for the offense. He's just humming on offense, and his defense is playing solid ball. Plays 4-0, and the other teams that's in that division are kind of shaky. I mean, one week they look decent, the next week they're not. And so they're kind of exchanging blows right now, and he's just been kind of the steady guy there in the AFC North. So that's kind of like my surprises so far happening in season 105.
Cincy, go ahead.
Yep. So I'm just gonna go. I'm not gonna repeat all those names, but I agree with everything you said there. My biggest take from the AFC, I'm just gonna go one team from each side here, is the difference between last year and this year is the Chiefs in the AFC West here, starting off 0-3. 54 points for and 93 against. I mean, it's definitely he's having some struggles early on in the year. Let's see if he can figure it out, and he's gonna have to figure it out fast because it looks like Pepper's back and he wants to take the West back. And then over in the NFC, it's surprising but not surprising. I mean, he's had a history, but looks like the Packers are falling into the being turnover prone again, falling to 0-4, which you do not want to do in the NFC North. Because once you get to about 6-7 losses, you might not be able to make it out of that division. So let's see if Packers can get back to how they started off last year, and see if they can go up. There's only one way to go.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, Maniac and I can speak to the NFC North. It's a challenge. I mean, we got the defending champion Trey, and things. This is a gauntlet, but I can't agree more with you guys in the AFC. I mean, this next week, week 5, is going to be a big game for myself, playing Little Koch, who's 4-0. As you said, putting up 174 points and only 63 points allowed. Like, he's humming on both sides of the ball. And that is going to be a challenge for myself to kind of, see how I can slow this offense down, but also put some points up. So I'm looking forward to that kind of as a big test or kind of gauge of where I'm at going forward. But I think, you said it a little bit. I just played Denver. It was a tough game. But I think Myles Garrett is like unreal. He just comes off the edge so quick. But the Steelers, I think, are still trying to figure things out. He just took over that team, kind of scoring just as much as he gives up. And I think, like he's, we said before, maybe a season 2 away. And for me, I would say the biggest surprise is probably Kobe at 2-2. I mean, his offense is scoring 119, but he's given up 111 points. And I think, we talked about this in the last show of how Bill and Massimo are both capable. But I actually am curious, and I have not been able to pay attention as much as I've wanted to on those particular games. But is Kobe's first 4 games, I think, I'm pulling this up here. So he had Denver, lost Sniper, and then he lost to Penguins and then lost to Bill. I thought, probably Bill and Denver would be the 2 teams that he would struggle with. I didn't think, Penguins is from a standpoint of an owner. I thought that, that would be a tough game. But I just feel like Penguins' roster might be a season away just to kind of fill in some of those holes and develop some of the younger guys that he was able to draft with that high draft pick in the 2 slot. So I'm kind of surprised that Kobe fell in that game and took a loss. He's got a couple weeks coming up to get back on track with the Panthers, who have struggled, and then Loss, who's struggling. But then he's right back into it with a 3-game gauntlet with Bill, Massimo, and then Little Koch. And then he goes on a bye week and then comes back with Dwayne and Massimo. So he's got 2 weeks to figure things out, and then he's got a 5-game stretch that really could probably make or break him. If he's gonna do well in that stretch, then I think he'll stay in the thick of things, especially for the division. But if he struggles, then that division might be between Massimo and Bill, and Kobe might be hanging on for a wild card. And then if we have the parity in the AFC that we did last season, the wild card might even be in jeopardy, which is kind of crazy to think about. And then on the NFC side of things, like you said, I mean, Kevin, I'm not surprised. I mean, his defense is playing lights out, only giving up 11 points a game. But I think the biggest thing for me in the NFC is the Giants, and Colin has struggled. I mean, he was really doing well, and he was finding a way to win games that were close last year. And I thought with the departure of Penguins, Bird coming in, Bird is solid, like a solid owner. But, I mean, they lost Aaron Jones, and, he kind of takes over our roster and trying to figure things out. I thought Colin would stay pretty present in that division. And through the first 4 weeks, he's 2-2, and Dwayne's established himself as a front runner at 4-0 already. So I think Colin kind of surprises me. It is weird seeing D-Money at 2-2, but I think he had 2 sim games at the front end of his schedule, so maybe not as surprising. And then Cincy, you beat him here in week 4. So those are, some things to just think about as we go forward. It's still way early in the season, but obviously some shakeups with obviously Nate, being, I think, a 2 seed last year, and nice 500. Kevin's, I would say back, the defending champions at 2-2. We just had a really big game here in week 4. The Lions and the Bears did. But yeah, so I think, some of the top powers aren't obviously out of the mix, but some of them, like the little Koch, who was a 2 seed last year, he's back. Massimo and Bill, and it'll be interesting to see how things transpire and unfold here in another 4 weeks or so, three weeks before our next show. Well, the next thing I really want to talk about is some of these standout rookies, and I think it's interesting to kind of just look at, is there any rookie that stands out from a statistical or performance standpoint in your guys' eyes that is kind of a difference maker early on in the season?
Go ahead, Maniac.
Well, I mean, the easiest one to go with, I think, would be wide receiver Tom Bradley of the Bills. I know Bill had moved up in the last draft and in season 105 draft to the number 6 spot or 4 spot. I think it was right before me.
It was 4 spot, yeah.
Yeah. And he selected wide receiver Tom Bradley. He's been lights out for him right now. He's leading in reception yards, I think 541, and he's got 5 touchdowns. And so I think he's kind of like this. Bill saw what happened in the playoffs. Massimo was able to take the top off with his speed at wide receiver with Tyreek Hill, and I think Bill saw that and seen a need in his team, and he went after it in the draft. And Tom Bradley has been nothing but spectacular so far for the Bills. I think he's really helped that team solidify themselves as being a contender in season 105.
All right, and Cincy?
Yep, that is a great pick. He's definitely by far the early offensive rookie of the year, in my opinion. But one other player would be actually the quarterback for Lost Sniper there, old Justice Walker. He wasn't the number 1 quarterback taken on the board. He was actually taken early in the 2nd round. Justice Walker, the rookie, he's I believe he's 2nd right now in the league in passing yards, so he's been slinging pretty good. He's throwing quite a few picks. He's already up to 10, but that happens with the growing pains of the rookie. But look for Justice Walker to have some full season stats here.
Absolutely, yeah. Walker's had a pretty impressive start. I mean, he's throwing 10 picks, but I think 9 touchdowns. 10 is not leading the league, so he's not at the top, but he's there. I also think that those are great picks. I would say from me that you couldn't go wrong with either one of those guys. Obviously, Tom Bradley's really being at the top of the receiving game has really changed some things. I think I'm kind of interested and shocked in a way that the Broncos have Mac Jones up there in the passing category, but the rookie receiver that he drafted, that Alpine Stevens, has not been the guy. And Vega the rookie running back only has 1 catch. And from a rushing standpoint, Javonte Williams has got a few more carries. So, he's splitting the carries, but neither running back is really running the ball all that well. So I'm kind of surprised in a flip side of things, I guess, more in a shocking that they aren't performing as well as Javier Vega and then that to receiver Alpine Stevens for the Broncos. Because if we remember, I was saying for a long time that I thought once Jay Glaze got his receiver that things would kind of kick off for him. And the passing game's been better, but that rookie's really not even in the picture. It's Juju Smith-Schuster and Jerry Jeudy and Then he's got the two tight ends, Greg Dortch and Albert O, really carrying the passing game. And then the running game, it's kind of a split between the two. For me, that's just kind of shocking. And then I think the other thing that I was going to point out is that you had mentioned a couple solid picks, but the Bryson Wake, the tight end that was drafted for the Bengals, Mello Carlisle has like been one of the premium tight ends in the league for a couple seasons, and he is at the top of the receiving for the Bengals yards wise. But actually, Bryson Wake is leading the team in touchdowns with 3 touchdowns, 7 catches, and 134 yards, getting almost 19.1 yards per catch. So, I mean, he's definitely sprinkling in and making those catches count with that rookie. So I think that's kind of impressive. And as those contracts with some of these guys like Burrow and Chase, as they get up there, Mello Carlisle might be somebody that he can trade and move on from because he's got Bryson Wake. So I look at that maybe as a potential kind of leader as well in the rookie category.
You know, I would like to point out one thing. You know, you're talking about, you know, and we talked about the rookies. Everybody that we just listed off on the offensive side of the ball, and I was kind of scanning through the defensive side, and amazingly, there is not a whole lot of rookies making a big impact so far in the season, which is kind of interesting in a way because I know like a lot in the past, you know, people would come up to the draft, just like myself. You know, I drafted a cornerback very high, with, you know, a lot of speed and a lot of upside, but he's really not made much of an impact so far. And looking at the stats, there's really only a couple rookies on the defensive side that have even made anything really noteworthy. Devontae Warner from the Texans with 34 tackles. You know, he's at least, you know, kind of gotten the stat column pretty well. And then I think the middle linebacker for the Seahawks, Keon Worthy, he's got 29 tackles, 3 for loss, and interception. You know, so but as I was looking through the sacks, I mean, none of the rookies are making impact in sacks. None are making impacts really in the interceptions. I think every rookie so far that's even had any kind of playing time on defense all only have like 1 interception or you know, just a couple deflections. So not a lot of impacts coming from the defensive side of the rookies so far from the season 105 draft.
Yeah, and then as I was going through, and I remember Cincy in the draft thought that the Jaguars selected a really good running back, and I was like, oh, I wonder how he's doing. I went and looked, and Trevor Zane has got 17 carries for 44 yards, averaging a horrible 2.6 yards per carry with no touchdowns. Travis Etienne Jr., on the other hand, is averaging 9.5 yards per carry. And then A.J. Dillon, the short down back, does have 3 touchdowns. So I think from that standpoint, that's kind of a shock as well because I thought Trevor Zane would be kind of a guy that would definitely explode for some decent statistical standpoint early on, just because that running back room is kind of like being shaken up with the retirement of, I believe it was Ben Morris or whatever his name was at running back, and then adding A.J. Dillon. But, you know, Trevor Zane coming in as a rookie, I thought he would be having off to a better start.
Yeah. To touch up on a couple of those guys, I just think a couple key attributes are affecting these players. Like that Trevor Zane has a very low ball carrier vision. I think that's a big thing. Even though it seems like it might be like a computer kind of attribute, I think it actually helps the user more than we think. Right. And then that receiver we were talking about for the Broncos, I forget his name.
Alpine Stevens.
Yes, Alpine, yes. I think he's just, because he went for speed. That guy's got like 90, he's a blazer, like 96, 97 speed, but he's got mid-60s route running, so like he probably just can't separate from any of these corners. So that's going to be the toughest part. Why he can't get on the ball. He just can't get open, I assume.
Right. Another guy that I kind of forgot about, honestly, was the guy from the Packers who drafted that girl, Earl McKnight, receiver. He has like he's a hidden dev, 5'11", 96 speed, 95 acceleration. I thought, okay, he's gonna go to Priest and kind of be another guy like McCole Hardman, deep ball threat, and he's got 3 catches for 35 yards. And he's clearly throwing the ball. He's got 13 picks and only 3 touchdowns, and all 3 have gone to McCole Hardman. So it's interesting to see that as well. And I thought, the running game, Clancy's been the guy. He's still having a decent, statistical year, but nobody behind him with the loss of A.J. Dillon. He thought that these vet backs in Phillip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon were going to be the guys. And honestly, it's kind of crazy to even see. Melvin Gordon only has 9 carries through 4 weeks. And if you add 9 carries with the 63, so yeah, I mean, he's only getting like 12%. Like, I don't even know if that's an FPR.
Here's another thing. I'm going to touch up on this. I'm going to go off topic, actually, since we just saw this. All right. It takes I've done many of these. It takes, I don't know, let's say less than 2 minutes of your time. And we've all wasted 2 minutes of our time doing something. It takes 2 minutes to fill out an FPR sheet. Like, it's not difficult to see that obviously he's not giving this guy the ball or his second running back enough. I don't care if it's a blowout or not. He didn't get blown out 4 straight times. If he did, well, whatever. But yeah, he had to break FPR at one point in one of these 4 games. It's 63-9. I mean, I didn't go back and look at his games, but if it's 12% overall, there's no way he's making the correct thing. So that's just my 2 cents. And you know what? I tried to look at some other games, but if it's not my game, I can't do anything about it. I'm not on the board, and I'm not playing the game, so I can't fill out the FPR sheet. Some people don't want to do it. They don't want to. Some people are afraid they don't want to get in trouble for it. Like, oh, they don't want this guy to hate them because they're doing FPR. They're just doing their thing. Just hold these guys accountable. Like, we all want to play by the same rules. So let's just, if you see something, question it. There's plenty of great guys on the board. Just ask them a question. They'll probably tell you to fill out an FPR sheet and go from there.
Yeah, looking back, the Packers had the first game. He had Clancy with 18. Gordon only had 2. And then Lindsay and McKnight each had a carry. So that definitely doesn't cut it there. And this is just one. I'm not trying to pick on Priest, but it's just something that we came across. But Clancy had 8 carries in the second game. No other running back got a carry. And he lost 34-6. Then he lost 34-0 to the Seahawks. And Clancy had 17. Melvin Gordon had 3 carries. And then week 4 against the Cowboys, he lost 34-14. Clancy had 20 and Melvin Gordon had 3. So yeah, FPR in all 3 games there. That's something that definitely needs to be worked on if you're playing Priest. But like I said, I'm not trying to pick on him directly. It's just something that we caught as we're going through those games. But yeah, I think some of these rookies that are just, maybe need a little bit more, kind of like real life. They just need to, develop those raw skills and, the odd rookie like a Tom Bradley who stands out. I mean, that is something that is worthy of talking about. One other player that I would touch quickly on is the Rams do have the rookie quarterback and the rookie tight end combo, just like the Seahawks had last year. I don't know what it's with the NFC West teams getting these tight end quarterback rookie combos and doing well, but yeah, I mean, Chandler Spence is off to a decent start. Could improve on the percentage and the touchdown interception ratio, but being a rookie, and I think Tim's game is probably not more or less pass the ball like crazy. He is having a decent year running the ball with a couple backs. But in the receiving game, Cooper Kupp and then that rookie Taylor Porter, who's a tight end, have both done well in the passing game. So if you're playing the Rams, keep an eye out on Taylor Porter as a rookie because from the tight end standpoint, him and the rookie quarterback do have a connection there. So that is something that is another rookie that we can talk about. Moving on, though, with the rookies, unless you guys got anything else that we did not talk about.
Sure, why not? Since you brought up Tim. I'm feeling talkative tonight. All right, Tim, I'm going to call you out on this one, buddy. No, not a big call. You're a platinum member, man. We've already brought this up twice in chat. I have no idea why you still have Matthew Stafford taking up this useless cap space on your roster. Use your platinum, cut his bonus, cut him, create something, a new avenue for your team. You don't need that wasted space sitting on your bench. You obviously are moving on from Matthew Stafford. He's due another $50 million next year. So just do yourself a favor, help yourself out, cut him, and then go spend money and help your team.
Yeah, Matt Stafford definitely in 2025 is due $50.5 million. In 2026, $49.5 million. That is a lot of money. That is a lot of money. So, yeah, I mean, if I was head of the Rams organization, I would definitely be looking to move on and put all my eggs in one basket with Chandler Spence, the rookie quarterback. Use that money to put some pieces around him. But, yeah, that's a good point there, Cincy. Anything else that's worthy of talking about?
Side note, like, I was thinking, side note on that, like, the real NFL Rams, like, what the heck are they thinking, paying that man that much money? Jeez, I don't know if it's something that Tim signed him for, but that's insane, man.
It is. It is.
Yeah. And I'm looking at the chat here. Roger has made a good point that the tight end from the Dolphins, Rivers, has had a pretty good start to the year. I might have missed him as well. I'm looking to pull this up. Rivers does have 21 catches, 283 yards, and 4 touchdowns. So, yes, leading the team in the passing game. So, yeah, we kind of overlooked that one. Massimo, who obviously had Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddell in the passing game. I think more of a decoy so Rivers becomes open. But he is putting up the numbers, getting almost 71 yards a game and obviously a touchdown per game as a rookie. So, good start for him. And then he also mentions when we decided to go with the custom drafts, the number one rule was that we are not going to make creative players overpowered. Again, like I said, I think that's something that is nice because sometimes in the draft, like, we get a lot of these overpowered guys that come in and players tend to like just trade away like, a TJ Watt or, somebody that's, I just throw TJ Watt out there, but, just a player of high value that maybe be like 29, 30 years old and just throw them away for nothing because they know that they're going to have a pretty good chance of getting. I think the way it's set up now, if it's me, that I think it is something that is nice because it kind of makes you think about having those vet players on your roster, but also the importance of building the rookies up to replace those as well and kind of, do your homework when you're doing your draft. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and move on. Looks like Tim and the Rams have announced that they have arrived in Minnesota and they are ready to play. So, we may be losing Maniac.
Don't trash out the locker room.
We may be losing Maniac here shortly as one of our hosts. But going forward, the thing that I wanted to talk about, was going forward as we're on the draft topic. I kind of want to pull up the draft real quick and just look and see, early on if there's any players that are sitting in the draft that might be somebody, next pick or an import type of, player that stands out. And I see a couple right when I pull it up. I see 2 quarterbacks in the top 5 projected. One is from Utah. He's 6'4", 221. And then another one, Bernie Costanzo from Virginia Tech, 6'6", 234. And then there's a couple linebackers and a tackle. And then there's another quarterback up there as well. So there might be a couple quarterbacks taken in this next draft. And again, we talk about having, that import as we're, down to the last 2 seasons. Are there any players, if you guys have had a chance or quickly go through it, are there any players that you guys see that may be, the guys to keep an out or guys to keep an eye out for or something, or maybe like, hey, we're looking at it, Maniac. Yeah, I think you said you just traded your pick away. Is that correct?
Yeah, I traded my first to Bill for the outside or it's actually defensive end a dojo, I think, or something like that, from the Bills. So yeah, so I'm hoping that I don't hand Mr. Bill over with a top three pick. But it's possible the way my team has played. They've been pretty rough, but I think this draft's going to be amazingly enough. It looks like there's going to be some good value there in the linebacker department. I'll get it out here in a minute. The left outside linebacker I know has popped up quite a bit through the first round. Looking at it, and then I also think looks like that the offensive line, especially in the tackle department, is going to have some good value early on in the first couple rounds, possibly even as deep as in the third round. So just looking at, I think those positions are are strong coming into this draft.
Yeah, so I think I agree. I mean, like I was saying earlier, I think there are a couple of positions. Last year, I felt like Nate hit it really well in the draft. It wasn't really like a lot of sexy picks, but I thought it was really deep. You could get a lot of players that would, again, not stand out, but more or less that just could fill a hole and start from day one and build some good depth. I think this might be more of the opposite draft. I think we might get some playmakers, maybe not like as in past Maddens, but just looking at it, I mean, there's two top five projected quarterbacks, two first round projected quarterbacks, another one that's projected first or second round. So I think there's definitely some quarterback play there. And then if I remember right, there was some decent amount of receivers that would maybe be worthy picking as well, based on the type of receiver you need. And then there was quite a few guards at left guard, especially. Nope. Or is it center? Hold on. I'm looking. Left tackle. Sorry, left tackle. So TJ Booth is the top five guy, but then they had four guys behind him in the projected first round, and then three more guys behind that projected in the first or second round. So I think this might be another one of those like heavy line drafts, especially on the edge, because on the other side at right tackle, we have four guys projected in the first round, and then two projected in the first or second round. So quite a few first or second round picks there for the tackle spot. And then we got some quarterback spots. And then, as you just mentioned, linebackers. And I'm seeing some defensive ends as well. So definitely some skill, like more skill positions, I think will be of value this draft. The one thing that I'm not seeing is an abundance of corners or like running backs, unless you just find like a hidden gem, which I felt like there was I want to say 3 or 4 corners in last draft that were worthy, and I know you got one of them, Maniac. But what do you see over there, Cincy?
Yeah, like you said, I think this is the time we're looking for potential imports for teams. Between this past draft and this coming draft, these are the two drafts that you could possibly, have a little bit of grooming time for your import. So it just magnifies. Some people will draft a little differently coming up in the next draft. They might not draft for their need right now. They might, you know, this will be after the actual NFL draft, so they can piece together their roster. They can see their team for next year, so they might be able to draft, based off the actual NFL team needs going into it. I mean, my slam dunk player is the right tackle, Darren Townsend. I mean, he's a big boy, 6'6", 340. I just think that guy is going to be a day one impact starter for whoever takes him in the top 5. I mean, they got him projected at 6 now, but he's definitely going to be a top 5 player.
Nice. And so Roger announces in the chat, watch out for Brad White at quarterback. And I went and looked at him. He's a day 3 projected quarterback from LSU, 6'4", 243. Big boy for a quarterback, almost like a Jerry Lorenzen type. But he says that he's running away with the SEC Offensive Player of the Year so far. So definitely maybe of a steal at quarterback in the later rounds if things continue. But again, there are 5 or 6 first-round projected quarterbacks there. So lots of depth there. But I think, we talked about it a lot last draft about getting the big boys up front, and Darren Townsend definitely does not lack in size, and I do see that he's got a awareness and a impact block. So depending on how the old run block and the pass block come out to be, but he is a top pick with the power style. Definitely somebody that would be solid for some team that needs a tackle. And again, there are a handful of tackles both on the left and the right side. Not as quite as big as him, but definitely some picks out there. Like I said, I'm looking and I'm interested to see, kind of just the meat and potatoes, as I like to call it. You get your tackles, you get the D-line or the linebacker, and then, the franchise staple piece and a quarterback. Again, there's a few receivers that might be worthy of taking. But outside of that, I mean, you're not really seeing a ton of running backs. Maybe a couple here and there, depending on the play style or how people like to be used, or how people are going to use that particular running back. And again, like corners and safeties, there might be 1 or 2, hidden gems or people that are worthy of getting picked, obviously, but nothing that like is super flashy at the beginning, as you look at it, in my opinion. But as the season goes along and we scout and we do our homework, I'm sure there will be more guys that come out, from these later rounds that get picked early above their projected. And it'll be fun to, as you said, Cincy, take these guys, groom them for a year or 2 before we head into the next Madden. And it'll be interesting because you hit the nail on the head. These guys aren't going to be drafting based on need of their team right now. They might be drafting for their team in the next Madden cycle. So that is always throws kind of a wrench into these later draft or 2 towards the end of a cycle, because you look at, things, and things could be a little bit different when you're trying to project of who's going to get taken. Tim says I might go D-end to go along with Donald and Cooper. That might be scary if you got another defensive lineman. I think there's other needs. I don't know if you caught the beginning of it. You need to get rid of Stafford's contract with that platinum membership to open up some money so you can build out some depth at the rest of those positions. But, adding depth or adding beasting up that D-line will never be a downfall. You've got a really good defensive line already. Kind of moving along here, I just want to touch base, what game of this week and then what game next week stands out. That's kind of one of our staples of the Down and Distance show. So looking at week 4, I want you guys to give me one game that you either watched or wanted to watch that you didn't get to watch, but let's talk about it, and then let's pick out a week 5 game coming up next week after the advance, once the Rams and the Vikings complete their week 4 game here shortly.
Go ahead, Maniac, start us off, buddy.
I'm fixing to get ready to play Tim, but I'll go ahead and throw one out that I wanted to watch that I didn't get to watch. Browns and Steelers, I think they played tonight. Sound like that game was a fantastic game. Ended up being a 23-20 victory for Cleveland. That game was definitely one that would be to watch there. And then for next week, I'm looking at an interleague matchup or whatever, the division of the NFC South. New Orleans Saints, Atlanta Falcons, I think that's going to be a good one. I think Saints are looking to get back in the saddle there in the NFC South. So look for that one to be a good game as well.
Yeah, I think.
I'm off.
Are you taking off? I want you to focus on your game, and we appreciate you jumping in. Go ahead and take off, and we might even tune in here and try and catch a moment of your game here shortly. But good luck in your game, and we appreciate you joining in tonight.
All right, thanks, guys.
Good luck. So the Browns Steelers game, as you said, was sounded like an epic game. I also wanted to watch this game. Did not get to. It went into overtime. And the crazy part is it was pretty low scoring for the first half. The Steelers were leading 3-0 at half, and then the Browns came out in the third quarter, put up 14 points, and was winning 14-3 after the third quarter. And then here came the points in the fourth quarter. The Browns put up 6, the Steelers put up 17. They go to overtime 20-20, and the Browns pull out a field goal in overtime to win 23-20. Offensively, both teams had a decent amount of production, and the Browns ran the ball a little bit more, whereas the Steelers were pass heavy. Both had decent amount of first downs, but the big story was the Steelers had 5 turnovers to the Browns 2, and I think that's the name of the game. You know, the fewer your turnovers, obviously the better chance you get. Russell Wilson at quarterback had 5 picks thrown, only 2 touchdowns, but did almost cap the 300 yards mark for passing. And he also took 5 sacks. Deshaun Watson, on the other hand, was 244 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, 7 sacks taken. And Najee Harris, 10 carries, 74 yards, no touchdowns. Dylan McCook, 11 carries, 69 yards, no touchdowns. Spencer McGee, one of the backs that's been up at the top in the league, 15 carries, 69 yards, no touchdowns. Receiving, David Njoku, the tight end for the Browns, kind of led the way with 6 catches, 118 yards, and a touchdown. And then the younger the younger receiver for the Steelers, 4 catches, 71 yards, and a touchdown. Looking at the stats from the defensive side, Paul Hutchins had 3.5 sacks. Myles Garrett, no surprise, he's been there every week, 3.5 sacks. And then TJ Watt also had 2.5 sacks. So lots of sacks there for the game, which has been kind of a story of the year and almost a lot of these games, especially when you get playmakers on the edge like those guys. Cincy, what was your week 4 game?
My week 4 game, actually, we're gonna repeat one of the same guys. We're sticking with Denver and the Browns. He actually came to Chicago and played your Bears. I tuned into a bit of this game, and you know, your Bears defense is showing up this year. You know, you forced Watson to get 4 interceptions. You held Spencer McGee, his workhorse, to only 7 carries for 22 yards. Like, when you do that, that's a recipe for disaster. You know, you held his deep receivers down. Like, Claxton had, I think, 4 for 55. He really didn't hit anybody else for anything deep. You know, Njoku had a little bit, Cooper had a little bit, but nothing crazy. I mean, you pretty much held him in check on offense. You know, he started off slow last year and then tore it up in the second half, so maybe he's just a slow starter this cycle. He struggled. Both teams did struggle keeping their quarterback up. They both allowed 4 sacks. You know, I know the Bears have had trouble this year with the sacks given up, and you know, anytime you're going against Myles Garrett, like you said, I mean, he's leading the league with 15 sacks in 4 games. So I think he had another 3 against you. But if I can't remember if this was the game you didn't have Cash.
Yeah, Cash was out this game, and Sam's.
Yeah, so it was big because you had Samson and Bukum step up in Cash's spot, and he came up huge with 2 sacks and an interception. So I just thought, and actually 3 tackles for loss, which is huge. So he was really aggressive, and I just think that adds to you down the future that if someone's a little hurt, you have no problem subbing him in. So I just think it was a great game down the stretch. You did what you needed to do to hold off, you know, Denver, and I just thought it was an excellent game from start to finish.
Yeah, it was kind of a weird game because when we first got going, I felt like I kind of got out a little bit early. And then right before halftime, he scores like a quick like 13 points and had a fumble, touchdown, field goal, and I think another field goal or something like that. But it was scored like a quick, 13 points or something like that right before halftime with under a minute left. And it was just like really defeating because I felt like I was dominating the game at 13-3 or 13-0 or something like that. And then
Yeah, this was the game where you had like a weird interception and it was a safety, I believe, right?
Yep. That was it. Yeah. So he had threw the touchdown, and then my guy, like, he was going in for a touchdown. My guy like strips him as he's going in, and then they called it for a safety, and then I punt the ball. He goes down and scores, and then I get the ball, and I was just gonna run like a simple like little pass play, and if I pick up yards, I was gonna try and see what I get. And Myles Garrett had one of them instant pressure sack fumbles. He gets the ball on like the 10-yard line, and then throws a touchdown to, I think, Amari Cooper or something like that. And then all of a sudden I was down 16-13, and I'm like, well, that was a quick change of things. And so kind of had to weather the storm there. As you said, I think my focus was to kind of take his run game out. And I felt good that I did that, and then just kind of limit the big plays. And Njoku had a big play for like 30-some yards on one of his 2 catches. But long story short, Denver played solid. His defense is the real deal, especially with Myles Garrett playing the way he's playing. He's game-changing. So the one game that I wanted to kind of talk about, and I got to find it here. Where was it at? Sorry, I gotta find. I can't remember which week it is. Was maybe it was week 2. What is it at? I should have done my homework a little bit better. I thought it was week 3 or 4, but oh, here it is right here. Bills and Massimo, week 2. I thought it was week 3 for some reason. But Bills and Bill with the Bills, and then Massimo with the Dolphins in week 2. We kind of talked about how the AFC East would be up for grabs this year. And Kobe, who won the division, and then Massimo came in as a 7 seed, and I think Bill got like the 5 seed. So we had 3 representatives from the AFC East, and Massimo caught fire at the end of the season, and I was like really interested to see how that was going to translate into this season, because I think he found his running game, which brought some balance to his offense. And so I thought, okay, well, this will be kind of interesting to see how this goes into season 105. And
Not that game.
And what's that?
Well, we'll find out when we dive deep into the stats of this game.
Oh, yeah. So Cam Akers, the guy that I've been talking about, the running game, who caught fire, he had 11 carries for 27 yards and a touchdown. And then he had Kenny Pickerson, on the other hand, had a flawless game at 244 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. And then Josh Allen had 280 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 3 picks. So you look at the stats and you think that, this is obviously leaning towards the Dolphins' way with no turnovers. The running game really wasn't there except for Chubb. He had a decent day at 12 carries, 69 yards. But then Tom Bradley stands out. We already covered it. 7 catches, 129 yards. Stephon Diggs, another 7 catches for 99 yards, which Bill aired it out, but he turned the ball over 3 times. So, and then the rookie tight end had 6 catches for 78 yards, 2 touchdowns. But the story of the game here is that Miami walks away with a 38-27 win over the Bills. And Bill kind of, when you're looking at the stat sheet, other than the turnovers, Bill pretty much dominated the game. He had more yards on the ground, more yards in the air, so more yards total. Had more first downs, in special teams he won there as well. But the name of the game, like we always talk about, is turnovers. Massimo had 0, Bill had 4, and that was what killed Bill in this game with the 4 turnovers. Massimo gets a big win in division, and he sits at 3-1 as well as Bill. But obviously, as of right now, Massimo has the tiebreaker with that head-to-head game in week 2. I look forward to seeing that matchup again, and I think that that's really going to be a staple. In the AFC, whoever wins that division, and possibly gets the wild card, could be a main factor in the AFC playoffs. And they play again in week 14. So it'll be interesting to see how that comes about. The other game that I wanted to talk about, but I did not get to catch, I'm not going to go over it as in deep, but I really wanted to catch this game, was your game against D Money. I really wanted to watch this game because I felt like that I've said it in the past, I feel like you really step up when you play the cream of the crop or the top owners, from season to season, whoever it is. Last season it was, and you knocked off Denbrew when he was hot. You beat D Wayne, and then kind of he went on a big stretch. So I think there's a lot of times that you've played these top guys when they're hot and on streaks, and then you kind of dethrone them. And so I was really interested to see if that was going to be the case for you playing D Money with the Niners. And sure enough, you did knock off D Money, and I really wish I could have caught that game, but I just was too busy and did not get a chance to catch it. But looking back, it looks like it was a barn burner because it was a 16-13 final. And when I pulled up the stats and looked at it, D Money jumped out to a quick 10-0 lead in the first quarter. It was the end of the first quarter. It was 10-3. So, like I said, I wish I could have caught that. And the key for you was no turnovers, and D Money had to look like to be a good game. And so yeah, that would have been my other pick for game of the week in the recap. How about for week 5? What game are you looking forward to watching?
Week number 5. I am going to. There's actually quite a few good games here. Some important early games. For quite a few teams as I'm looking at the schedule, but I'm going to key in. We had Maniac talk about the Saints Falcons could be a big one. I'll definitely be watching Nate play that one because I want to see how he can bounce back. But I'm gonna stay on the Denver train here. Talking about him a lot lately. I'm gonna say Lions and Browns here. This is going to be a big test for Denbrew here, playing the reigning champion, but he really doesn't want to fall deep in this AFC North. Now, there might be 3 teams, coming out of the North, but if he loses this game after 5 games, he's going to be 3 games, well, at least 2.5, probably 3 games back, depending. I don't know who the Bengals play. Actually, they play the Bears, so that's another big game. He's going to be at least 2 to 3 games back after week 5. It's something you don't want to see, that early drop. But on the other side of it, looking at the Lions side, he's already 2 games back. If he loses this game and you take down the Bengals, he's going to be 3 games back in the division. And you're going to be the hottest team probably in the NFC if you win this next week. And he's going to be second guessing how he's handling, or maybe a little Super Bowl hangover possibly after winning. We'll see how things go. But we're gonna need to see Cleveland get that running game going. They struggled early last year by not enforcing that run game. If they get that run game down, I think Cleveland can take this game. But if he's trying to do a shootout with Watson and he doesn't get the run game involved at all, then it's going to be the Lions because he's going to be a little more versatile in the offense. But like I said, it's just going to come down to if the Browns are running the ball or not.
Yeah, so Denbrew, I think I totally agree. I think Denbrew has to establish a run game. If you play Trey, the key is not letting that pass rush, because he's got it from both sides with Aiden Hutchinson and the newly acquired in the offseason Ben Wright. Both guys can get after the quarterback. But he's got a couple of big boys. The rookie D tackle and the other boy, I think, is Akeem, defensive tackle. They both can stop the run, and he's got active linebackers. So you really have to pick and choose your run game. Be patient, stay true to it, and not get undisciplined. Because as soon as you start throwing the ball, it's only a matter of time. Trey usually tends to find a way to get a big interception and kind of change the momentum of the game. His offense is so potent that, you give him his offense, more touches and more time on the field. It's hard to win a track meet with him, because he's got a lot of speed on that offense. So, and then he's been using Snoop, the running back, kind of more power back. So he's kind of got the power run game going, and then he's got the speed with Belton and Jamison Williams on the outside, and then obviously the tight end on the inside with TJ Hawkinson. Things are going well. He's taking care of the ball. I think I did pick him off one time. We played 4 times, so I can't remember if in the game that I played, that counted if it was an interception. I do believe, yes, I did have one with Jalen Petre. So yeah, one of his 3 picks came from my game, but he's throwing well. He's 65% completion percentage with 8 touchdowns, 3 picks. And then again, averaging 4.6 yards per carry, which isn't super sexy, but it's good enough, and he does stick to it pretty well. He runs the ball with Snoop James pretty well. So, again, this is a game that I, can agree for game of the week. It'll be a fun one, and both teams really can't afford to lose, because on the flip side of things, like you said, in the week 5, I also play the Bengals, and whoever wins that game will be 5-0. And then if the Lions lose, then they could be 3 games back, and if the Browns lose, they could be 3 games back, and that's a lot, a big hole to climb out of early. Not something that isn't unmanageable, being that it is as early as it is, but it's something that would be tough. My game of the week for week 5 is I'm looking at Kevin with the Bucks playing at the 49ers with D-Money. I think D-Money, coming off a loss 2 weeks ago in week 3, bounced back this last week and did beat Black Cats and the Panthers 24-6. So I think he, made a statement there. But Kevin's team has only allowed 44 points, and he's putting up quite a bit of points. So his challenge and his test is going to be D-Money. D-Money being one of the upper or elite players in this league. I think that this is going to be really a good gauge of where Kevin is. And so I look forward to watching this game because I think Kevin has gotten on the right track and got the train back on the rails and moving along. But this could be the game that really kind of sets the tone for him on the season. And, we talked about how the Falcons are 3-1, and they got a big game in division with Nate. So Nate can't fall back to 2-3 because both of these teams, if Nate loses to the Falcons, that puts him 2 games back there, or 3 games back, and then possibly a big hole with Kevin if Kevin were to find an upset. But there are a number of games that I am interested. The other game that I thought about was Bill and Pepper. Pepper has been playing good football so far in season 105 and kind of has been back, and Bill has been consistent the last 2 or 3 seasons with his Bills, and I think he's playing well. And so this could be another really fun game to watch here in week 5, season 105. As we are getting just over that hour mark, I don't really have anything else on the schedule for tonight. I'm just going to go ahead and kind of wrap things up. One thing that I am going to just touch base on, and then I'm going to turn it over to Cincy as we wrap the show up for tonight, is I do think that it is important, as Cincy said, with us getting towards the end of this cycle for this Madden, frustrations, tensions get a little high, and people get a little irritated just because Madden kind of does that to us, and it's not something that I think it kind of gets the best of us. For me, I just try and find ways to stay active. This content really helps me do that, but I think the biggest thing is really focusing on like your gameplay and holding others accountable. And it's not, don't take it as that you are, going or throwing someone under the bus. We just got to hold each other accountable. We make mistakes and we do things, but that's why Nate and the crew do such a good job, and they put these rules out, and they're trying to create an environment and a place to play that really is fun to play. So we just need to hold each other accountable so we can continue to enjoy the game as long as we can. And then we kind of become rejuvenated or refreshed, I should say, once the new Madden comes out. But we still got a solid couple months left. And I think we focus on the holding each other accountable and really enjoying it. We can finish strong here with everything that we've been through. And all the EA mishaps. I can't thank Nate and his crew enough for getting us through all of that, because I really enjoyed this Madden. And like I said, a lot of it's just been the content standpoint, putting out the show and being a part of Press Pass Live and everything else. So I ask the rest of you guys to do your part and enjoy it as much as we can. This is the best community for Madden. It's been around forever, and Nate is at the front of that, and what we have is one of a kind. So let's keep it that way, and that's kind of holding each other accountable is the main part of that. The second part is if you're not a part of the stuff that we talked about, I think in previous shows, like your fantasy football, your OMFL gold sheet, your pick'ems, all that stuff, get involved in it. It's a good way to stay connected, and it's a fun way to compete and also earn some incentives and make your team more competitive. And I know there's some guys like, that thought, for instance, Roger, he just thought that he was going to come out and this was going to be his season. And a lot of us did. I was one of them. He struggled early on, and I think maybe he finds his way. But, that's what part of football is you do a little, smash talk and lay it out there. And, I enjoy it. I think it's fun. So I look forward to the rivalries continuing. And I think Trey and I got one going on. Priest and I got one going on. And Maniac's now joined our division, so I look forward to getting one going on with him as well. The last thing I got is just keep playing your games. Let's try and keep the advances going so we can stay plugged in, as we are going pretty strong right now on us 2-day advances or just under 3. So that is a good thing. Let's keep that up. And that's pretty much all I got. Cincy, what do you got to wrap the show up?
All right, guys. It's April, sometimes it's tough. Even if you're winning, mostly if you're losing, it is tough to stay plugged in, but there's very few leagues that are as good as ours here. There's like Hurt said, there's so many ways to stay plugged in. Spend a couple minutes, do a paragraph, or create a Twitter. It takes a minute to create a Twitter and 30 seconds to tweet. Doesn't even take 30 seconds to tweet. Biggest thing, I think, the easiest thing to get in is what Lost Sniper does for us. He puts out, very easy, you just click links. You got the pick'em and the gold sheet. Every week, takes 30 seconds to put in a pick. You go, you look for 15 seconds, you see something, you post it. Boom. Very easy. You get a chance to earn rewards. It's one of the easiest ways to upgrade some players, and it could be beneficial down the road. Like, it's always there. It's not a negative. There's no negatives to these. We wouldn't put it out there if there was negatives. It's just fun little competition, and you can earn free rewards basically. And onto that note, that's pretty much all I want, or all I got to say about, the incentives or staying plugged in. I know we got 32 great users, and I've tried to talk to most everybody. I just want everybody to stay plugged in April to, June or July. Get us rolling to the next Madden. It's a great community we have here. That's all I got.
Well, there you have it. This is week 4 in season 105. It's Down and Distance, your weekly OMFL show. We appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to come and listen to us and just kind of give our perspective and kind of pick apart the league, the stats, the games that are going on. We've had a lot of good games. Let's keep it up. Looking forward to week 5, week 6. In the coming weeks, so we can cover some more interesting stuff on our next show. Make sure you tune in to Press Pass Live. I believe Nate and the boys will have that going on Monday afternoon, as they usually do, or maybe Tuesday if he has something going on. But tune in to the Press Pass Live show, as Tony Bono will probably make another appearance on that with the news. And once again, we appreciate you guys tuning in. You guys have a good week. Peace.
Peace.